Okay, so this is my evaluation question 5. How did I attract my audience? So after identifying my audience and discovering the key elements of film that they preferred, I utilised particular elements of films to attract my target audience in several ways. Firstly, from my primary research, I discovered that a key element that made my audience want to watch a film was the plot. Having an interesting plot with lots of open ends allows for the audience to think and come up with potential ideas as to what is happening in the film. Hence, I ensured the plot was complicated enough to keep the audience's minds engaged. I made this apparent in the opening sequence with several aspects. I made use of flashbacks, such as the one pictured, that briefly appeared and then vanished or moved on to a different one. This would leave the audience wondering what significance they bear to the plot. Confusion was also created through switching from night to dusk. Not only is this not chronological, the two entirely different settings leave the audience questioning what is going on, and the multiple anonymous shade characters that pursue the man will raise questions as to why these shades are pursuing the man and what their purpose is in the scene. All of these features are integral to opening sequences as a whole. It's vital that the opening sequence engages and captures the attention of the audience, hooking them on the first few minutes of action in the film, and leaves them wanting to watch the rest of the film. Through creating the confusion in the plot in the aspects aforementioned, the audience will already have a lot of questions in their mind. These are enhanced by the final hook when the title is displayed. Here the detective wakes up after being enclosed by the shades, breathing heavily. He then unclenches his fist to reveal the ribbon that he earlier picked up from the girl, Charlotte Adams, who vanished in the scene, and all around him are the trashed rooms and notes and images that were seen in the flashback sections. This leaves the audience wanting to find out whether the entire opening scene actually happened or not, and allows for continuation into the next scene. These features of complex plot and confusion can be compared to existing thrillers such as Shutter Island that keep the audience guessing as for the duration of the film as to whether the man is insane or whether he is being deceived, leading to a shock revelation at the end. Flashbacks were also used in Shutter Island to give context to the plot and help reveal things about the character's past, which is something I've tried to emulate in my own thriller in order to attract my audience. Similarities here between this film and my own thriller can help to attract the audiences of other successful thrillers to watch mine. This will have an overall effect in that my thriller will attract a more specific target audience and hence be more successful. Another feature I found to be important from my research was a sense of action. Action was the most popular film genre amongst the genres from my primary research, and from my secondary research I found that standalone thrillers were not as popular as films with thriller as a subgenre. For instance, the most popular genre was action, with Skyfall being the most popular title amongst that genre, receiving a third of all the profits in that area. And hence, as a result of this, I make a change in pace apparent around halfway through my thriller piece, with a more dramatic and intensified soundtrack to the solemn, eerie piano piece I have in the background, and an intense forest section with the detective fleeing the shades. The use of sound attracts my audience as I edited the eerie piano piece to be slower and in a lower key in order to create a dark atmosphere to intrigue the audience, before then going on to use loud, sharp noises in the more intense section to hook the audience. The loud crescendo sounds heighten the suspense and signify the importance of what's going on, and that helps to keep my audience engaged. I also made sure to avoid violence in my piece, as I found that from my primary research that my audience prefers 15 rated films to 18 rated films, and hence violence would be more associated with the 18 rated films than the 15s. Also, this helps to distinguish my film as a thriller, not a horror, again matching my audience's preferences. The threat of violence is more effective at building suspense than the action of violence itself, meaning my opening sequence can continue to build tension instead of reaching a rather blunt climax. I found my audience likes to be gripped by a film, and hence utilising these aspects will help me to attract my target audience. I distributed the link to my primary research survey onto my personal Facebook and Twitter accounts so that it reached an audience of between 15 and 24. In turn, this enabled me to shape specific aspects of my opening sequence around their preferences. For instance, casting was stressed as a high priority, and that a male lead was preferred in this type of film. Hence I ensured to make characters believable, realistic and authentic, with competent actors to play these roles. But I allowed for some unique aspects to each character, such as the abnormality in Charlotte Adams' costume, which would not be typically associated with modern-day society. By tailoring my thriller for a specific audience, it presents the advantages of it being more successful and better received amongst that audience, but perhaps deters those who are looking for specific features, characteristics and conventions in other films. However, from the audience feedback after the rough screening, we received positive feedback from the class, meaning that targeting the specific audience was successful, and that there were little flaws or things that the audience did not like in the opening sequence, and all wanted to continue watching the film after the hook in the last section. Finally, my audience may be attracted to my thriller for its referencing of perhaps more contemporary issues that affect modern society and the social groupings that my characters represent. As the title implies, the case of Charlotte Adams is centred around the disappearance of the young girl who is briefly seen in the opening sequence, and so immediately the issues of abduction and kidnapping that are seen in the news worryingly frequently are discussed. This could help raise awareness as to the risk of the occurrence of this crime. Furthermore, the detective character will have to overcome many issues throughout the rest of the film. The flashbacks and the notes in his room and the shades being an indication of his guilt for not solving the case of the disappearance of the girl. So from that, it's going to raise issues such as guilt, trust, depression, and so on that society would not perhaps expect from a younger male character. And this alternative viewpoint on the character within the age bracket of my target audience could engage them as well, as they would be more interested in a modern representation of themselves rather than the stereotypical ones that society presents. And that concludes my answer to how I attracted and addressed my target audience in my thriller piece.